Hot Mike with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mike.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is
Hot Mike. Hot Mike. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. This is the We're Always Disappointed edition of Hot Mike on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com. Happy Hump Day, those who celebrate on this 12th day of April. Again, reminded that for Minnesota sports fans, there's never anything nice. There really isn't. Last night we got that reminder a couple of times over. Just in the fourth quarter of the Timberwolves game with the Lakers last night in the NBA play-in tournament, where the Wolves couldn't have played much better for three quarters and then fell flat on their face in the fourth quarter and now face a winner-take-all game on Friday if they want to make the NBA postseason, because technically last night and Friday night's game is not it. Good morning, everybody. I am Dom Izzo, host of said show. Welcome to Hot Mike on a busy Wednesday. Lots to get to today, including the return of Dick Bremer on our show and back in the broadcast booth as well. Dick has missed the last week's worth of games battling COVID. He tweeted out yesterday that things were on course for him to be back in the booth today, as the Twins will play a matinee with the White Sox at Target Field. So I imagine he's going to join us from the ballpark, as it's a noon start for the Twins and the White Sox this afternoon to wrap up that set. So we're excited to have Mr. Bremer back with us coming up later on in the show. Also, a story we've been following for quite some time. The top high school football prospect in the state of North Dakota has made his verbal commitment. Riley Sunram announced that last night. We'll hear from him coming up later on in our show. We'll detail that in just a little bit. Also, the Wild got into, pardon the pun, an absolutely wild game last night with Winnipeg, in a game that was filled with fisticuffs, the coaches jawing at one another, and the Wild in the process lost their chance at the Central Division Championship. So we'll get to that all in a second. But for those that couldn't stay up late last night, you saw the score. You want to see how it unfolded, we'll show you here with the Wolves and the Lakers game last night in L.A. The Timberwolves, of course, without Rudy Gobert, suspended for the game, without Jaden McDaniels, who broke his hand after punching a curtain that was next to a wall. And like I said yesterday, the Wolves would play either terribly or great. And in fact, both happened yesterday. Mike Conley was great. That three right before the half gave the Wolves an 11-point lead going to the halftime locker room. It continued in the third quarter. Karl Anthony Towns was sensational for the first three quarters in this game. Hits the three. The Wolves are up 11. Up 12 at this point. Kyle Anderson knocks down this. The Wolves have a 15-point lead in the third quarter. It's a laugher. The old Staples Center, it's Crypto.com Arena, was silent. Taurean Prince here. They look at the ball movement here was great. Gets it to Conley, who was tremendous. Corner three at 23. The Lakers have trimmed it to 7. It's back to a 10-point game after Conley hits that. The Wolves, though, went ice cold in the fourth quarter. Conley hits this one again to make it a 95-88 lead. That was the last time the Wolves would make a basket for a long time. It's now a 3-point lead, and you knew this guy was going to show up. LeBron with a fadeaway three. That ties the game at 95 with 2 minutes to go. And when that goes in, you just had the feeling in the pit of your stomach the Wolves aren't going to win this game because they kept missing shots or turning the ball over. LeBron makes the extra pass. Dennis Schroeder, corner three is good. The Lakers lead it with a second to go. It's 98-95. That was it. It was over after that. With 1.1 remaining, Schroeder, who was dynamite in the second half as well, makes this a 3-point LA lead. All right, well, not going to be the Wolves' night. They played so terribly down the stretch. But on the inbound, Conley with a 3, and he's fouled. Anthony Davis fouled him. No one can believe it, let alone Davis. But, I mean, this is as clear cut. He runs into him as he's taking a 3. How many times do we cry about this during the tournaments? He makes all 3 free throws. So we go to overtime. And from there, though, Anthony Davis redeemed himself there. The feed underneath, that made it a 5-point lead. The Lakers go on and beat the Wolves 108-102 in overtime, the final score, meaning the Lakers clinch the 7 seed and will play Memphis in the opening round of the postseason. That means now the Wolves will play a game at Target Center Friday night against the winner of the game tonight between Oklahoma City and New Orleans. Conley was great. Kyle Anderson, despite one on the receiving end of the Gobert punch, 13 points and 12 rebounds. LeBron was his steady self with 30 and 10. And the Lakers get the win. Here's some post-game reaction from Karl Anthony Towns on the loss last night.
It's disappointing. I feel like we put a lot of effort in. I thought we fought. We were very scrappy. I thought we did a lot of great things. And, it's difficult when you leave without a win and you feel you played good enough to win, I mean, it's simple. I think throughout the game I was really doing a great job attacking the rim, really being powerful, getting to the rim, doing whatever I do. And, when you get 2 fouls off of flops, it makes it very difficult to want to, with 5 fouls, to do something like that. I don't want to put my team in a bad position where I make an aggressive move, they flop, they get the call, and then I'm out the game. Like I said, like the game played out, you never know what's going to happen. So never knew, 3 free throws by Mike with .1. Who would have thought that? We go to overtime, good thing. I didn't get that 6 whistles, so I think the fouls hurt.
Was plagued with foul trouble last night, much like he was in last year's postseason. He got his 5th foul, which was a terrible foul. That came with 9:21 to go in regulation. And I don't know if that took the Wolves out of their offensive rhythm because they were humming offensively, frankly. At that time, when Cat got his 5th foul, it was 89-79 Wolves. And here's a stat to just wrap your mind around about how poorly things went last night. Over the final 11 minutes of the fourth quarter and overtime, the Wolves missed 14 of 16 shots and had 8 turnovers. 14 of 16 shots they missed and had 8 turnovers. That's how you blow a 12-point lead, 15-point lead, and lose the game. I mean, there's no other way to sugarcoat that. It's a bad game to lose. A game that was there for the taking. A beat-up Timberwolves team, literally. It was there for them, and they can't close it out. And so now it all boils down to a game Friday night at Target Center. Now, Rudy Gobert will be eligible to play for the Wolves in the game on Friday. Again, they'll play the winner of New Orleans and Oklahoma City. They just beat the Pelicans on Sunday. That was the game where the you-know-what hit the fan at Target Center. I mean, New Orleans is, I wouldn't want to mess with them. Pelicans have got some dudes led by Brandon Ingram and C.J. McCollum. Even without Zion, they've got some guys. I mean, the Pelicans at one point were in 4th in the Western Conference standings when Zion was playing. Granted, he hasn't played since January. I would fully expect it's probably going to be New Orleans winning this game tonight, which is on ESPN. We'll preview that later on in the show. You just don't know what the mindset is for this basketball team. They had a great opportunity. that just slipped right through their fingers last night. Every cliche you can think of, just went away. And now you've got a game that you got to win. And if you end up winning, your reward is the number 1 seed in Denver. I don't know if either what matchup suited the Wolves better, whether it had been Memphis. Granted, Memphis was without 2 of its big guys, or the Nuggets, who now with Jamal Murray and Jokic, I mean, they proved that they were the best team in the West throughout the entire season. Granted, they had a couple games where they sat their dudes against the Wolves, and the Wolves blew them out. It ain't going to happen in the postseason. But they got to get there first. And let's just say it right now. If this ends up, they lose the game Friday, right? Then there has to be some change here. They can't just roll it back out and say, we'll do it again because Cat missed 4 months. That's not a true indicator of this season. I think you saw last night how, and granted, Ant was not good. The one thing you did not see in the highlight reel was Anthony Edwards. Edwards got dinged up with Rui Hachimura, came back with kinesio tape on his shoulder. I think he made 2 baskets in the entire game, maybe 3 baskets. Yeah, 3 of 17 was Edwards for 9 points in the game last night. But my larger point on this is, before we move on, I think they played better without Gobert. I mean, it's easy to point to, but again, when it's Edwards and Cat working off one another, I think the spacing on the floor is better. They know what they're doing. And some of this falls on Chris Finch, I think, the head coach as well, that they just didn't use their substitutions right. I think the bench was playing well. Nickeil Alexander-Walker was good. Jalen Noel was giving him some buckets. But you can't underestimate, without Jaden McDaniels out there, what kind of loss that was for the Wolves. And so now they got to pick themselves up and play a game on Friday, a game they have to have. If they lose, the season is over. If they win, not sure how much longer the season's going to go, but they're going to get 4 more games if they're able to beat either the Pelicans or the Thunder on Friday. Well, that was happening earlier the night at Target Field. The Twins were playing the second game of their series with the Chicago White Sox. And on the flip of what the Wolves, the Twins game couldn't have started any worse for Pablo Lopez. White Sox got up to an early couple of runs to take an early 2-0 lead. Twins flipped it around thanks to Byron Buxton. Crushed this to left center for a 2-run shot to tie the game up at 2. Michael A. Taylor, not known for his power, gets into one, gives the Twins a 3-2 lead. Then they turned it over to this guy, and Pablo Lopez was awesome last night. He had one of those pitching performances that just, you make sure you are watching him pitch, because he was in an absolute groove last night. He struck out 10 White Sox batters. He had a stretch where he retired 23 consecutive Chicago batters. Came out of the game in the 8th inning with a standing ovation, came out with 2 outs in the 8th, which will get everybody's dander up, because why did he have to come out of the game? They took him out for a lefty versus lefty matchup, and Caleb Thielbar got the out to get out of the 8th inning. But I don't know, you leave him in there. The way he was going, Chicago wasn't touching him. And it's funny because on this night, as Lopez is dealing, Luis Arraez hit for the cycle for the Marlins, which we'll get into when Dick Bremer joins us. So he comes out of the game. The Twins get out of the jam in the 8th inning. But as we go to the 9th and you bring in Duran, who's your guy, that's who you want in, and promptly gives up the home run to tie the game in the top of the 9th inning. So just like that, Lopez goes from a great start to a no decision on the home run from Luis Robert. We go to the bottom of the 10th inning. Michael A. Taylor lays down the bunt, and the White Sox, they are terrible fielding. That throw gets away and allows Willie Castro to score the game-winning run and the Twins win it on a walk-off 4-3. Literally, that was the first pitch. There was one pitch. That was all he needed in the bottom of the 10th inning, and the Twins even up the series with the White Sox. Chicago is just terrible in the field. How many errors did they have on Monday? They had like 3 or 4 errors on Monday that nearly let the Twins win that game. They had 3 errors on Monday. 1 last night. It's a heck of a no decision for Pablo Lopez, though. I mean, that's going to go down as an all-timer as he retires 23 consecutive White Sox hitters. Griffin Jax gets the win in relief, though. Lopez 7 2/3, 3 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 10 strikeouts on 98 pitches. He has been everything and then some that the Twins have wanted. And they get the win, improved to 7-4 on the season. As you look at the batting average leaders, pitching ERA with Sonny Gray leading the way, and Lopez has been great. And the standings here in the Central now through almost a full 2 weeks of the season, with the Twins a half game ahead of Cleveland. The White Sox then at 5-7, the Royals at 3-9, and the Tigers at 2-8. That's what things look like in the AL Central here in the early going. Maybe not sure if we don't have that graphic or not. Twins are a half game up, though, as they get set to wrap up the series with Chicago coming up later today, which we'll preview coming up in our second hour. Pack show coming for you. Drew Trafton will join us in just a few minutes. Lots of NFL draft chatter as we are just 2 weeks out from the NFL draft. That's coming up in just a few minutes. At 10 o'clock, we mentioned Dick Bremer will join us, voice of the Minnesota Twins, back in the broadcast booth tonight, or this afternoon, I should say, as they wrap up their series with the White Sox. And Riley Sunram at 10:35, the top football prospect in the state of North Dakota, announced his verbal commitment to play for P.J. Fleck in the University of Minnesota. He will join us at 10:35 to chat about that. So, a busy Wednesday unfurling here over the next 2 hours. We'll take a break. Hot Mic is off and rolling. We're back after this on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
It's good to have Drew Trafton back here in studio. Email comes in on your segment with Drew this morning. If you could ask him about the Seahawks taking quarterback Hendon Hooker, if he's still available, or possibly Cody Mauch, because they do need offensive line help with their 20th pick. That is forgotten about because of all the hooplas around the number 5 pick. You've got emails coming in here for your segment. That's how big a deal you are, by the way. What do you make of that? Quarterback at 20?
Let me thank my mom for sending that email in this morning. No. So, I mean, Hendon Hooker, certainly like the hottest name out there when it comes to quarterback play, when it comes to, the guys who might be,
Likes are being rumored around with him, too.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, he is one of those prospects where it's like, if you don't want to play with potential, like if Anthony Richardson's a little too rich of a risk for your franchise.
I don't know if he's going to be there at 20, by the way, anyway.
Right.
Richardson.
Yeah, and a lot of people are looking at Hendon Hooker as the option there.
Who, by the way, is going to be the same age as Lamar Jackson.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is nuts. Yeah. In that, so from a Seahawks perspective, Seattle loves taking older players, loves it, and I've seen Hendon Hooker compared to Geno Smith when it comes to a skill set. So, as in Seahawks world, if Hendon Hooker is indeed crawling up these boards, I think 20. Especially if the Seahawks trade back with 5 and maybe they collect let's just say 9 or 10 and then maybe a later first rounder or another second rounder. Yeah. I'd be all for it. I love the idea of Hendon Hooker as a Seattle Seahawk. But yeah, I think that there are a lot of teams. I mean, I've heard rumors that he might be ahead of Anthony Richardson on a lot of boards, and it is
such a lying season right now. It's just crazy.
Smoke screens abound really everywhere, and they use these top 30 visits to build this, this appearance that they're going one way or another. All of these pictures that are going out with NFL, GMs and coaches, hugging, these prospects and stuff. Cody Mauch is the other part of that question. I don't know if I like Cody Mauch in the first round.
Yeah,
there.
it seems like it's trending. He's going to be a second-round guy.
Yeah, and just because with Seattle, they did re-sign Phil Haynes, or they have Phil Haynes. They just got the free agent from Detroit. His name totally escapes me, but he can play. He's supposed to be playing center, but if they draft a center, then I imagine that guy would slip to guard. So I just don't know. I'd love Cody Mauch in the second.
Yeah.
If they're, I can't remember what the Seattle second pick is in the second round. I think it's 52.
Hold on a second here.
I'd love Cody Mauch at 52. That'd be outrageous. And they'd have a killer offensive line.
Well, it is 52. Mel Kiper's got you trading with the Eagles here.
Yeah.
And his latest mock.
Yeah,
So,
in round one.
No,
or
round two with the 52nd pick. Yeah.
Trading out.
Yep.
Yeah, and Seattle's going to trade one of their first 4 picks. Like, that's just like John Schneider, their general manager, like, he won't be able to help himself.
Mel's got you with Jalen Carter at number 5.
I'm getting warm on Jalen Carter again. I just this morning saw a clip of them playing Texas Tech or Texas A&M this last season, and it was three plays in a row where he stopped the run. And it wasn't a highlight deal. It was just 3 plays in a row. And I'm like, you know what? That looks good. I'd like that if they're still at 5 and Carter's there at 5, and I imagine he would be at 5.
Yeah, hearing this morning about just the speculation around him, the controversy around him, maybe that's a better word. The talent is going to outweigh the risk. I think that's going to happen. Him falling out of the top 10 is not a realistic possibility.
Well, and his agent
someone's going to take him.
Said, I mean, he's not even taking top 10. He's not taking visits with teams outside of the top 10.
By the way, that's Drew Rosenhaus, by the way, his agent. So, I mean, take that for what it's worth there. But
I think that
most powerful football agent that's out there.
Right. I think the talent does outweigh the risk there for sure.
Somebody will.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to take a run at him. I just can't see him falling outside the top 10 either. I just don't see it. I think some team might even make a move to get him. At this point, like, I still think that's on the table with Jalen Carter.
Mel has also you drafting defense with Miles Murphy at 20, defensive end from Clemson.
Well, see, and I saw a video of him yesterday working out with who's the top guy last year, Walker, right?
Yeah, Trayvon Walker from the Jaguars.
Walker. Yeah, and he was working out with Trayvon Walker, and look, I mean, you can only glean so much from workout videos, but it's like you see these guys doing these things, and it's like, man, if they're working side by side with somebody, like there might be some juice there. Like I think he might climb up the boards a little bit too, and I saw Miles Murphy was cleared medically. So I mean, there's we know these things are going to happen in the weeks leading up to the draft, in the 10 days leading up to the draft, and there's going to be momentum shifts here and there. And, it's fun to watch because there's so much uncertainty this year, I think, outside of, really from the get-go. Like, we don't know which quarterback Carolina likes at this point. Like, we've got an idea of who it could be. Like, it seems to me
everything's heading towards Bryce Young is going to be the guy at number 1,
which is interesting. And then Adam Schefter was talking yesterday about how C.J. Stroud's not a lock to the Texans at 2 because the Texans
are going to take that quarterback at 2, right?
Yeah. And I mean,
and if Schefter's saying that, someone's telling him that's
or they want that narrative out there.
And obviously, we know the Cardinals pick is for sale, so that's again, that's why this thing is always as highly rated as it is because it creates this nonstop talk about leading up to what's going to happen 2 weeks from tomorrow night.
Last year I felt like we even had a sense. We knew there were going to be 4 tackles taken.
Well,
in the top 10,
I think we still thought Aiden Hutchinson was going to be the number 1 guy.
Yes.
And then that day was the Trayvon Walker steam ended up happening, and that's what Jacksonville ended up doing.
Yeah. And it's like, but there's seemed to be a little bit more certainty around kind of who we could see go in the top 10 last year. This year,
it's just different because there's quarterbacks. There's this many quarterbacks. Last year was not a quarterback rich draft in the first round. That's why there's this kind of swirling around. And how many teams could say Tennessee's another one? Yeah. Tennessee's out there with. They haven't done anything with Ryan Tannehill. He doesn't have a guaranteed deal. They've been really odd this offseason. Like the Titans might be willing to do something there.
Everybody's that I've seen. The pundits have been saying, like, the worst kept secret in the NFL right now is Tennessee wants to move up.
Or they want to get Lamar Jackson. I mean, they go and do that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's still out there too, which is odd.
It's weird that we live in a day and age where teams within a division would even be, even be in that conversation. Not that Baltimore could stop them if they went the route and they went with took the franchise tag away there. But that, like, the idea that Tennessee would be like, here, you can have 2 first-round picks, Baltimore. We're going to take Lamar Jackson.
To do that in the AFC would seem odd to me, but
it would be really odd. It's just, I mean, but these rules are in place to be used, and oftentimes these shifts happen.
Right.
Like we saw it with baseball when free agency started, decades ago. But it really changes the sport and how you look at things.
I got 2 things for you before you go. You came up to my office and you saw the story yesterday we talked about it on the Sunday ticket deal. Just doing a little bit of math on it for what I've had it for years. It's about the same amount of money that I have spent because I've gotten ticket and the red zone. Mm-hmm. If I were to pay full freight, whatever it is, when the deal expires, the early bird deal expires. You have YouTube TV, correct?
Yeah, and I bought it because of NFL Sunday Ticket. Like I cut cable and I just made that decision. Like I had hung on to cable forever. And I was like, I'm going to cut this and I'm going to get YouTube TV because it was cost effective at the time, but also it's like, hey, they're going to get Sunday Ticket, and I bet they're going to have a deal for subscribers. And so, like, let's jump on that train now.
So that's the deal we're looking at then, right? But you can get it now for $100 less.
I can get
$250, right?
Yeah, I can get it for $249.
You're a YouTube subscriber.
Yeah, at the base plan, but that's without Red Zone. So if I want to do that, I can get
with Red Zone. What is it? 300?
I think it's it might be another 100 or something like that. I can't remember. I think I'm just going to go with like the super base plan and go for the $250 deal. And I'm also going to really try to sell my wife like, hey, let's do a Father's Day birthday gift like combo here. Like, I'll take the pressure off of you. I'll sign up. Honey, I'll sign up myself. You don't even have to do it. Like, this is.
Here's the thing you and I were talking about when they first heard that Google was going to do this, that why not? And I think they can make a bunch load more money, make it available that if I just want to watch the Jets, that I can do that and pay a freight on that.
Yeah, and you know what?
If you want to watch the Seahawks, I will do that.
And I'd probably pay above premium. Like I would pay, a little bit more than typical to do that. Now, like it wouldn't pay the $250 obviously, but you give me one team for $100,
right? Now,
like $150.
Seattle might fit that bill because I don't know how many national primetime games you're going to get. A couple because you were good last year.
Like
the
3.
Jets may drastically change if the Aaron Rodgers trade goes through. The Jets are suddenly going to go from 0 to the max, which is 6 or 7 they can have on national television. Then I'm wondering, all right, is it worth it to do this? Because
even if you're not,
half their games are going to be on.
Yeah, and even if you're not on primetime, you're probably going to get the preference
national game,
on CBS.
Right.
Absolutely, you will.
So now I'm wondering if I'm talking myself out of doing this now because, but you know what I mean?
For the 6-7 weeks.
Because for 15 years, the Jets are never on. This past year, they were on because they played the NFC North. So I knew they were going to be on against the Vikings. They were going to be on against the Bears, the Packers, and the Lions, and they were, which was great. But now, if Aaron Rodgers is on the team, you go and do that. That's why I'm interested in that.
It is interesting to do that math.
NFL said that, or DirecTV said they had about 2 million customers that had the Sunday ticket.
That's a lot. That's way more than I thought.
I'm curious.
That's an incredible number.
But remember, you had to have a dish up until I think a year or two ago when they finally went just the streaming package alone that you could do that. This is going to be way higher because you don't need a satellite dish. I would think that if all you need is a good Wi-Fi connection, they're gonna go bonkers on this.
I don't know what infrastructure you'd need to do like a single team option, but I would imagine they could do it pretty easily. Like with since it's streaming and everything now, and I would bet that they would get way more people on board with it if they would consider doing that.
I would think so. Lastly, I wanted your favorite baseball team is scuffling here. Mariners are 4-8.
Yeah,
what's going on? They lost 2 in a row to the Cubs.
Honestly, it's a different problem every night. It's kind of like they can't hit one night and then the bullpen blows it the next night and the starter doesn't give them long. Yeah,
you scored 9 runs last night. You should win.
Yeah. And like I am a big prescriber to the idea. In baseball, you're going to win 60, you're going to lose 60. It's what you do with those other 42. Yeah. And unfortunately, they've played probably 4 of those games so far by my math, and they've lost all 4. And that's where you really it gets a little worrisome. I'm going to reserve judgment until I think late May.
Memorial Day is normally the cutoff. For if you're either in it or not.
Because there have been these great highlights on great moments, with individual players where it's like they could piece this together still. They just have a little growing to do.
All right. I have by the way, just looking ahead, you got some major trash talking you and Benel can do. You play the Brewers next week in Seattle. So there you go.
Yeah.
You set yourself up for that. There you go. Let's go.
Also look at those pitching matchups.
I got to show this one piece of video from last night. I don't know if you saw this. Shohei Ohtani was pitching last night, and the umpires check after every couple innings, the fingers or whatever. The home plate umpire checked under his, it was like Leslie Nielsen and Naked Gun, because he was wondering, but Ohtani has his pitch comm device under his armpit there. I don't know if you saw this. It was literally like the plate umpire is like, what's going on? And Ohtani has to explain that's where he has his pitch comm deal is almost by his armpit is where it's at, which is that's kind of odd.
It's an odd placement. Like I wouldn't like.
Literally,
it's
I was expecting the Leslie Nielsen take the bat, the cap off, and the whole 9 yards.
Also, those City Connect jerseys for the Angels.
So
I'm on board with them.
I was not on board
you
last
don't like
year.
Those?
Last year,
yeah.
I got to look at them. They're pretty good.
These are okay.
I actually like the hats,
they're pretty
too.
fresh.
I'm not a huge fan of the white. The white hat and the red. That's not bad. That's all
looking
right.
Fresh.
So
I guess he can put it wherever he wants now, huh?
Yeah, right.
I always thought it had to be on the cap. I didn't know the rule that you could put it anywhere.
Evidently, the umpires didn't either. Apparently, because they didn't know what was going on.
That's got to get in the way of his movement, though, right? Like,
does it matter with that guy?
No, I mean, yeah, he can do whatever he wants.
Lastly, email comes in. Ask Drew when Dom's going to do his fantasy football punishment. Oh God, yeah. I thought people forgot that.
When are you going to do that? Can I be there for that? Can we do that?
Well, as assistant commissioner, you have to do that.
Just to verify.
that I actually did
Trust, but verify that this is happening.
Well, sometime next month. When we get into May, things start calming down.
Because that's like the dead period in the NFL. Let's do it there. I like that. That's a good idea.
We have to probably adjust our league roster because we've lost a couple people. So I'm not sure. Like they don't work here anymore. So I don't know if we're going to bring them.
Maybe we can extend invites.
Yeah,
like the Commanders. Can we do a bidding process to join the league?
I like that idea.
Submit bids.
Yes.
I don't know what that would look like.
Go to the Hot Mic Memorial Fund or whatever.
A $10 Starbucks gift card or something.
Like the Human Fund from George Costanza. Money for people. That's what we want. Great to see you, man. Thanks for coming by.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Drew Trafton joining us each and every Wednesday. We come back. If you missed the Donnybrook melee scrum at the Wild Jets game, we'll show you when the coaches are jawing at one another on the bench. It's awesome video. We'll show you that when Hot Mic returns right after this on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com. Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mic here on this Wednesday morning. WDAY Extra, Inforum.com. All right, thanks to Drew Trafton for staying a little bit longer than he normally does. Appreciate that. Dick Bremer coming up top of the hour, back in the broadcast booth today. Twins and White Sox coming up at noon at Target Field. The other Minnesota team playing last night that, I don't know if blew it is the right word to describe what happened with the Wild, but they lost out in a chance to win the Central Division Championship, something that they were in position to do not that long ago because they've picked a bad time to play maybe some poor hockey. They lost to the Jets last night, but it's how it happened that is the the intriguing part of what went down. Let's show you the game last night. It was a 2-0 Winnipeg lead into the third period of this when Kirill Kaprizov scores. That's his 40th goal of the season to make it a 2-1 game. Things got crazy here. That hit there from Ryan Hartman near center ice. The Jets took umbrage to that to start a whole melee over. I don't see if that was a quote-unquote dirty hit, but it was a hit near center ice. Hartman got penalized and went to the box. Then, late in the game, Marcus Johansson, who's been one of the Wild's best players, he gets hit there by Neil Pionk behind the net. That was a 5-minute major and a game misconduct. And things got nasty from there. Again, there's 50 seconds left in the game. Johansson looked like he was banged up, which you don't want him hurt. And, of course, after that, Ryan Reeves had enough of that as he and Adam Lowry size each other up, seems like, for forever. And this is what Reeves was brought in to do. And I'm not a huge fan of this part of the game anymore. But this broke out, and these guys are throwing bombs at one another. Here's the best part when that's happening. Winnipeg's head coach, Rick Bowness, is yelling at Dean Evison as they are fighting. That's Bowness there. You're going to see that was at the end of it. You could read his lips. I don't need to do it for you because he's saying some words we can't say. There, he's making gestures at Evanson. And this is the best part. Watch Dean Evison here. This is the scary guy in the fight because he just sits there and says, all right, yeah, come on. That's the guy you don't want to mess with during the fight. That was all that broke out yesterday. I don't know if this will be something that will inspire the Wild into the postseason. Obviously, you worry about the guys that got hurt, but as it were, the Wild lost their chance to win the Central Division championship as Winnipeg won the game. In the process, the Jets got into the playoffs, taking the last playoff spot. So as we look now, Colorado, by the way, lost last night to Edmonton in overtime, so they got a point out of it. But the standings now in the Western Conference, Colorado has a 1-point lead on Dallas, and the Wild sitting there in the third spot. And we speculated yesterday on the show, and we heard this during the ESPN broadcast, that maybe the Wild are trying to match themselves up with Dallas for the opening round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Stars and the Avalanche each have 2 games left. The Wild just have the one. They play Nashville coming up tomorrow night. Vegas holds the overall conference lead, 2 points ahead of Edmonton. You see the Kings there. But we know the 8 teams for the playoffs in the West. It's Colorado, Dallas, Minnesota, Vegas, Edmonton, the Kings, Seattle, and Winnipeg. This is how it would shape up now with the Wild opening on the road in Dallas, which, granted, home ice meant nothing to the Wild last year. You remember they lost their opening game to St. Louis, ended up losing the game, or the series, in 6 to the Blues. Do they match up better with the Stars? They have played them well over the last couple times they've met up, but they are not playing as well as they were. And I don't know if there was any way they could. Minnesota was just clipping. They were getting points in every single game that you knew they were going to cool off a little bit. Now, can they turn it on for the Stanley Cup playoffs? That's the important part of this. Colorado will match up as it is now with Seattle. That's the top wildcard team. The number 1 overall seed is Vegas, who would get the second wildcard team, which is Winnipeg. And then the Kings and the Oilers, that is shaping up to be a dynamite series. Boston has now got the most points, most wins in NHL regular season history. The Bruins have won 64 games. They have 133 points. They've just been a buzzsaw, matching up with the Islanders, Toronto, Tampa Bay, which they'd be playing in the playoffs for, I think, the 3rd year in a row, Carolina and Florida and the Devils and the Rangers. This is, by the way, just looking quickly with the Stars and the Avalanche have left. Dallas plays 2 games with the St. Louis Blues, tonight at St. Louis on TNT, Thursday at home with the Blues on ESPN. Colorado, as we mentioned, lost that game to the Oilers last night. They play the Jets tomorrow night and then end at Nashville to wrap up the regular season. So that's what it looks like. We'll see. The Wild in that game last night, you saw Johansson go down. Kaprizov, Zuccarello, Spurgeon, Brodin, Dumba didn't play Monday. They all played last night. And Kaprizov, by the way, just one nerd stat, became the first player in franchise history with multiple 40-goal campaigns. He had 47 last year, now 40 this year. Not even Marian Gaborik did that. So, again, you don't need any reminders on Kaprizov, how good he is, but that happened again last night. And we'll see what happens now, wrapping up the regular season coming up tomorrow night with the Nashville Predators. We'll take a break here. We'll wrap up hour 1. We mentioned Dick Bremer coming up around the corner on this Wednesday. Hot Mike returns on this Hump Day edition. We're back after this on WDAY Extra, Inform.com. Oh, boy, here's another nerd stat to hit you on the Wolves game from last night. Our good friend Jace Frederick sharing this one. The Timberwolves have led by double digits in the fourth quarter in each of their last 4 postseason defeats. Think about that again. They've led by double digits in the fourth quarter in each of their last 4 postseason defeats. So that goes back, obviously, to last night. And then the 3 games against Memphis in the first round last year. That's brutal. I mean, is that enough to get a coach fired? I don't know, but it ain't good. I'll tell you that. There's been 2 people that have been in there. That's Karl Anthony Towns and Chris Finch that have been a part of that. It's another tough deal for the Wolves. That's you got to win those games. You cannot have that kind of lead and not be able to close it out. At least one of them, let alone 4. You can't have that kind of advantage and not be able to slam the door on it. So we'll see what happens coming up Friday night with either New Orleans or Oklahoma City. That game coming up tonight. The other game that happened last night, Atlanta and Miami, we nearly had both road teams, both 8 seeds win. The Hawks beat the Heat last night, so Atlanta clinched the 7 seed in the Eastern Conference, which means the Heat have to play another home game as they'll play against the winner of Toronto and Chicago. That's tonight in the Eastern Conference, and the winner of that will play the Heat that game on Friday. Why there's such a long layoff here is because they want to have another day off for the team that plays tonight. Not fair to actually have them play a back-to-back because they don't need to. And plus, the NBA wants to draw this out as long as possible. So there you see the whole bracket there that the Hawks now move into the 7th spot since they beat Miami and will play Boston. And the winner of that game on the Eastern Conference will get crushed by the Bucks in the opening round. As we mentioned, whoever wins the Wolves game against either New Orleans or Oklahoma City gets the Nuggets in the opening round of the NBA playoffs. I will say this now. This is obviously Minnesota's second go-around in the play-in deal. I like it. I think it's a neat deal. I think it's added some, some intrigue to this part of the year. I don't know if any of the teams 7 through 10 enjoy it, but it has more teams and more fans interested in the end of the regular season, which obviously is what the league wants, to create as much attention as you can to avoid as much tanking as possible. It's why baseball expanded its postseason, why the NFL did what it did by adding a couple more playoff teams a couple years ago. I would imagine the NHL will take a hard look at this because look at the drama they've had over the last couple of weeks. The Eastern Conference still isn't decided in the NHL. That makes a lot of sense. I'm not a great NBA mind, but I would tell you that it's been neat. I'll watch a little bit of the games tonight. Obviously, I'll be clued in on that second game because I want to know who the Wolves are going to play on Friday. But I think it's added a little extra zip here to the last little bit of the NBA regular season and into this little netherworld, should we say, between now and the postseason, which starts on Saturday. So we'll see. But again, that's a brutal, brutal stat. 4 times they have had double-digit leads and lost them all in their last 4 postseason games in the fourth quarter. Only the Wolves. We'll take a break. We come back. Dick Bremer will join us. Feeling better. He'll be back in the booth today as the Twins go for a series win against the White Sox. We'll start hour 2 of Hot Mic on this Wednesday morning right after this.
This is Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY. WDAY. Here's Dom Izzo.
A drive to left field. He has done it again. And a leaping catch on the warning track. Got him. And the Twins complete the sweep.
It is great to be back on a Wednesday at 10 o'clock, which means we get to visit with the voice of the Minnesota Twins on Bally Sports North. Dick Bremer back with us, and it's great to see you at the ballpark. I know you got a bunch of people that reached out after you found out you got COVID and had to miss. I know it killed you to miss the Twins home opener, but first, how you feeling?
I feel fine, and you're right. I really appreciate the get well wishes that I got from people who texted me, social media, and all that. I feel fine. I was stunned when I tested positive, but unfortunately, we're still dealing with this stuff. Yeah. And thankfully, the symptoms that I had were comparatively minor. I know a lot of people who have ended up getting this have dealt with more serious symptoms than I, but we're ready to go now, and it's just great to be back at the ballpark.
So just, I mean, you've had to watch games before when national networks have it. Was this like gut-wrenching? What was the last few days been like?
Well, there's a distinction between when somebody else, Fox or somebody, does a game and then you watch the game because that's just the way the schedule works out. This was different. I honestly don't think I've missed 5 games in the last 20 years. And to have this play out, it was frustrating, because I wanted to be here. This is, those of us who live through the wintertime in this part of the world, if you love baseball, you can't wait to get to a ballpark. And I was able to go to Kansas City and Miami, but, there's something special about being here. And I missed that, but now we got, still a pretty full schedule left. So, again, thanks to your viewers and listeners who were so kind and wishing my return to health, and now I've got my return to health.
And now you got a beautiful day. It's about 85 degrees. I heard for down in Minneapolis for a matinee today.
Yeah, somebody told me when I was sidelined, when I told him I wouldn't be able to make an appointment because I had COVID, and he goes, "Oh, well, you'll be able to get out into your yard and get some yard work done." Then I looked out, I still had 1.5 feet of snow in my yard, but that's mostly gone now too. I don't know really. I mean, I don't know anything about meteorology, but how is it possible with all the ice on the lakes, 1.5 feet of snow, whatever we had a few days ago, how's it even possible for the temperature to climb into the 80s? I don't get that, but it sure has been a welcome turn of events weather-wise.
And the Twins have cooperated. They took 2 of 3 from the Astros. I want to start with that before we talk about the series with the White Sox. Obviously, we know how good Houston is. To have that, and granted, we're still in April, but to have that kind of performance that they did against Houston is certain, and with the guys that are out of the lineup right now, that was a heck of a way to start the home part of the schedule.
Yeah, I think Houston's going to be pretty good too, right? They won the World Series last year, and they look like they're going to be really good. So it's a wonderful start to the season, and through the first 2 turns of the rotation, I think a lot of Twins fans and maybe some of us who cover the team are going, well, I wonder when the first clunker is going to be. And then last night, Lopez looked like he wasn't going to get out of the first inning. And then lo and behold, he's getting outs in the 8th inning. He just really looks like a wonderful acquisition for the Twins on a night when Luis Arraez got the first cycle in Marlins history last night. So, we talk about trades being trades that can help both teams. And ultimately, this trade is going to be judged finally years and years from now. But it really does look like a trade that's benefiting both teams right now.
I mean, you can obviously point to starting pitching has got to be the number one reason. When you've watched the games and when you've been at them so far, I think Twins fans are going to fall over to see a guy pitching in the 7th, let alone the 8th inning like Lopez was doing last night. But that's got to be A1 of why the Twins are off to a 7-4 start.
11 games, 11 starts of at least 5 innings, and I can look it up. I would guess we didn't have half that many at this point at the start of the season. Last year with, Bundy, Gray really wasn't, ready to start the season, and then Chris Archer taking the ball every 5th day. It's been wonderful. And, 7-4 is pretty good, right? Especially when you're playing some pretty good teams. The White Sox think they're going to be pretty good. We know Houston is. So it's a wonderful start to the season. And then they're 7-4 even without Polanco, without Kirilloff, and without Gallo, without Kepler, and the injuries just keep mounting. Correa's not in the lineup again today. So it's not just the Twins, but, teams generally have not figured out how to start a season and have their star players stay on the field for the first few weeks of the season.
When you look at how, especially with the guys out of the line, we saw Joey Gallo go on the injured list yesterday. Correa's been in and out with back spasms. I mean, it's early on, but this is something we talked about the very first appearance you came on with us, that the offseason moves that they made, like for a Michael A. Taylor, have benefited already because they have guys that they can go. They have depth that they can go to.
Well, Michael A. Taylor's been in center field every day for the Twins in the absence of Buxton, who doesn't. I mean, his return to center field doesn't appear imminent, right? So, and Taylor got, a big home run yesterday, dropped down a bunt in a situation that required a bunt, right? Yeah. One thing to ask somebody like, Miranda or somebody like that to bunt when they can't, but the Twins had the right guy at the plate last night in a situation where a bunt really helped them win the ball game. So the depth that they had early on in the homestand, at least, it was Farmer, and now he's struggled a little bit. Solano's picked up a hit or two every game. Everything we talked about when we started these little chats again this year, this was going to be a deeper team than the ones the Twins have run out there recently. That depth, unfortunately, has been tested right away.
You mentioned Kyle Farmer. I want to dive into him. This is before the Correa signing, this was the biggest name that the Twins had brought in. Of course, he has the walk-off hit on Friday, the big home run on Saturday. I know he's scuffling a little bit now, but this is a guy that when he's been in for Cincinnati was ultra productive, and he's seen that way so far early on in his Twins career.
And we maybe haven't emphasized this enough, and we will start today. He's in it short again today. Yeah. Last year with the Reds, he drove in 78 runs. That was far more than anybody on the Twins last year. They didn't have anybody who drove in 70 last year.
Man.
So he drove in 78, albeit for a bad team. But he's a run producer, and he's already proven to be that with the Twins this year. So, 7-4. And then you look at, who have the Twins lost to? Alcantara, Luzardo, the Brown kid from Houston looked like he's going to be a Cy Young candidate. And then Dylan Cease a couple days ago. So 7 wins is nice, but then you have to tip your cap and understand the 4 losses that they've had, who they've had to face.
It's a great point. As you might, these are starters that are just, they're going to be in the AL Cy Young. At least a couple of them, I think Cease and Brown are not going to go anywhere in terms of what they are contending wise. We got to mention. You mentioned the trade. It's so rare, watching Arraez last night hit it around the ballpark, and then in the same instance, Lopez is doing what he was doing. He has pitched the Twins. We've talked about this in the 4 years you've done this show with me. The Twins need an ace. It looks like Pablo Lopez is an ace.
And he was a really good pitcher for the last couple of years with Miami, but the Twins saw something that they thought they could tweak. And he's picked up this new pitch called the sweeper. which you can put a different name on it. It's a more lateral breaking slider, I guess. And that seemed to work. But what was interesting to watch last night, the fact that he has been using this in his first two starts, and the White Sox seemed to have a good scouting report on it and did some damage on the sweeper, and it didn't look like he might get through the first inning with the way it was going. He didn't retire any of the first four batters. Then he didn't give up a base runner after that because they made an adjustment. The battery mates, whether it was Vasquez, somebody said, hey, look, let's go back to change up fastball, and because they're sitting on this thing, and sometimes we don't give players credit enough for paying attention to what's happening while they're out there and making adjustments within a game. But they did that last night to great effect. And so that really turned that whole game around and maybe the series.
It's not like he is, a fireballer. It's not like he throws 97, 98. What to you that it makes him so deceptive when he's on the mound?
Well, I think we saw some 96s last night, and there's some jump on the ball at the end, but he moves the ball around the strike zone. Yeah. That to me, with the changeup and the breaking ball too, he threw a couple upstairs, got away with them, or maybe even tried to throw them up there because it's a tough pitch to hit if you're not expecting it to be up there. But just the way he fills the strike zone, and very few of those pitches are right down the middle. The one that Vaughn hit for the 2-run double was kind of hanging in the middle of the plate, but there just don't seem to be many mistakes. Now, he got off to a great start, a similar start with the Marlins last year, and then, didn't go as well for him in the second half of the year. So we'll keep an eye on it, but it really looks like with the addition of that pitch, he's given hitters one more thing to think about. And last night, the White Sox might have been guilty of thinking about that and neglected, the pitches that got him to the big leagues in the first place.
All right, I am contractually obligated to ask you now, since you were at home over the last couple of days, did the games seem quicker watching on television as they have in person?
Well, I'll answer that in the way that I think I've answered it when we've discussed it with me as an active participant in the telecast. I looked at my watch last night, and it was a 10-inning game, and it was still, 2:35 or something like that. And so, wow, right? And then, again, you think, well, what did we miss? Nothing. There wasn't anything taken out of that game last night. Now, the participants, the hitters, particularly the veterans, might argue, hey, I feel like I rushed and this and that. But from the viewer's standpoint, from the customer's standpoint, there wasn't anything about that game, that telecast or the radio broadcast, that was missing. And it went 10 innings, and it still went less than 240. It's just been fabulous. And again, I keep saying, for Twins fans in your region, you could come down on a game like today. You could leave at 8 in the morning, catch a noon game, and still be back before sundown. It's just, I hope it continues. I think it will. It's just fabulous and a win-win-win for everybody.
So here's a quick little story here. My son goes to bed. It's about 7:45. I have to wash the dishes. Normally takes about 5-7 minutes. I start doing it whatever, bottom of the fifth, bottom of the sixth inning. I get done with it. Literally, the half inning is already done. Like, I turn, seriously? It's already, this is what's happening. And it's I know people are freaking out. It's fantastic. The Mets pitcher, Scherzer's complaining that he has to adjust now. Yeah, you better, or else the game is going to pass you, because they're not going back the other way. It's got too much they're going to sell advertising on the pitch clock now. They're not going the other way.
Well, and then within the game last night, it was Lance Lynn struggled in the first couple innings, and then the White Sox were hitting for 8 pitches in the top of the third inning or something, 6 pitches, whatever it was. Lynn had to go back out there. Could be a coincidence. But then he gives up what turned out to be an awfully big home run in the third inning to Michael A. Taylor. And it could be in part because he really struggled through his first 2 innings, got back to the dugout, didn't have time to, physically and mentally recalibrate himself to go back out there. And so it'll be a challenge for the pitchers, probably more than the hitters. But you're right. There's just a tempo and a pace to the game. And, I think people are already within the game wondering, why didn't we do this 10 years ago?
Let's take a break. We come back. The Twins have made a roster move and calling up one of their top prospects for the game against the White Sox today. We'll get the intel from Dick about who they've brought up and preview the series finale for the Twins head to New York and Boston. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns right after this. Welcome back, everybody, on a sunny Wednesday. Going to be in the 50s here, in the 80s in the Twin Cities, as the Twins will play their final game of this homestand with the White Sox coming up, a noon start at Target Field as they then get set to head on the road. Sonny Gray and Lucas Giolito will be the starters today. Giolito's got some good stuff, too. He's had some issues with the Twins, but when he's on, he's really good.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. The Twins are really excited about how Sonny Gray has looked in his first two starts. A lot of strikeouts, a lot of swing and miss. So we'll see what happens here today. But yeah, when you have a chance now. Twins had a 4-2 road trip. You can back it up with a 4-2 homestand against a couple of contending teams. That's a great way to get the season started.
The White Sox, just from you watching, they just look bad defensively. They've had 4 errors in the first 2 games, just kicking the ball all over the place.
Yeah, the other night they managed to survive 3 infield errors on ground balls. These weren't throws. Yeah. And I was joking with Justin a few minutes ago. I said, if the Anderson or Andrus had committed an error at short, you'd have had the cycle of infield errors. The third baseman booted a ground ball. The second baseman did. The first baseman did. And they don't look real tidy in the field. And ultimately, it forced Cease to come out after 5 innings, right? Because he had to throw so many extra pitches with all the errors. Ultimately, that's going to take its toll on the pitching staff unless they can find a way to tighten things up.
The Twins made a move this morning. They've called up one of their top prospects. Edouard Julien is now up with the team. He had a heck of a spring. Give us what you know, a little bit of the background of this guy and what he can potentially bring to the team.
Yeah, he went to Auburn to play college baseball and showed up on campus knowing very little, if any, English. He's a French-Canadian, and there aren't too many players from Canada that make it to the major leagues anyway, and the Twins have had a couple of the best, and Corey Koski and Justin Morneau. But then within that, there's a subset of French-Canadian players, and there aren't really that many who have made it and had an impact. The Twins think this young guy is going to make an impact. A left-handed hitter, he can really hit. And I liken what we've learned about him so far, having not seen him play in a regular season game. He's in the lineup today, by the way, hitting 8th and playing second base. But his minor league numbers and his rapid development seem to be similar to what Miranda went through the last year or two. And in each case, neither player was able to play any organized baseball in 2020, but they found a way to really accelerate their improvement. And again, we'll be curious to see how he fares in his debut today.
I watched a little bit in the World Baseball Classic. He was really good there for Canada. He had we're showing a highlight here of what he did against Team Mexico last month. He's got some power. He's got some pop. I'm intrigued to see what he does.
And he's an on-base machine. He almost walked 100 times or more in back-to-back minor league seasons, which is remarkable. He refuses, at least in the minor leagues, he has refused to expand the strike zone. And so we're looking forward to seeing him bring that game up here. And, yeah, we're excited about Lopez and all that, but it kind of strikes me that Julien might be a Luis Arraez type of player. So we'll see. We don't want to put any pressure on the young man, but we'll get our first look at him today.
All right. You mentioned, I don't know if you could do this on the spot, if you know the Twins lineup for today, who's in and who's out for today.
Well, Correa's not in. Buxton is designated the designated hitter. I wrote it down. I don't have it committed to memory. Larnach is hitting down. Nick Gordon's hitting cleanup. Solano's hitting leadoff again.
Okay.
Michael A. Tucker is still out in center field. Taylor, I should say. Larnach's in there. I don't remember exactly where. Farmer's in at short. So it's, not ideal, but They've got Gallo on the injured list. He should come off quickly. The hope is that Kepler will, and the hope too down the road, not too far down the road, that Polanco and Kirilloff will be back with the team as well.
I got an email about that to ask you about Polanco's status. What do you know there of any updates on Polanco right now?
He's down in Fort Myers. He's been, I think, in 2 games so far. They'll be careful with him. You'd like to believe that you can cover things in his absence, Kirilloff's absence, but you've got 2 outfield types, Kepler and Gallo, who've already gone down, and that's put a strain on the outfielders, and it's taken Gordon out of the infield, and that creates a hole in the infield. So it's remarkable. You look at across baseball, we're just 2 weeks into the season, and every team has had serious injuries, and it's just, it's mind-boggling to me how teams haven't figured out how to keep players on the field, even for a few weeks into the season. It's the team that can figure that out is probably the team that's going to be the new template for teams to try to copy.
I guess, would an earlier start help in terms of spring training? I mean, I know they're 6 weeks out now. I mean, I'm just spitballing off the top of my. What in your mind? How do we avoid this? I don't know.
Well, sarcastically, of course, I've suggested that they eliminate most of the trainers, and in spring training, put a medicine ball, a pack of cigarettes, and a case of beer in the middle of the clubhouse floor, and just have the boys have at it. That's not going to make things any better, I know, but guys used to come to camp not in shape
at all,
and they would get in shape, and they would be ready to go. Pitch 8 or 9 innings and certainly play 9 innings every day, right? But now they come into camp in shape and they play a couple innings and graduate to 6 or 7 by the end of camp. I don't know what the answer is. And trust me, the Twins and the other 29 teams are employing a lot smarter than I am to try to figure it out. But it's frustrating because every team wants to have their guys on the field. The White Sox are dealing with the same thing. Anderson got hurt in a collision. That's at least understandable. But Jimenez, well, he didn't feel right, and Moncada, his back is tight. He doesn't feel right, and I don't know that they're avoidable, but somebody needs to start figuring this stuff out.
Seems like every year we're chatting about the Tampa Bay Rays because they overachieve. Here they are. They can't lose. 11-0. They're 2 wins away from tying the best start in modern baseball history. It's so often I'll ask you, how are they doing that? But I'll ask you, how are they doing this? They can't lose.
They're scoring a lot of runs. It's not just that they're 11-0, but they're beating everybody by 4 or 5 runs, it seems like, except the 1-0 ball game the other night. It's amazing. They had a very soft schedule to start the season. We know that. They're currently playing the Red Sox. We don't know how good the Red Sox are going to be this year. Who knows? They may end up, in the 4th or 5th spot in their division, as tough as that division is. It's amazing. It really is. And then you look at the attendance last night, 12,000 some, and it's like they need to figure out something. There is some optimism there that they're going to figure out their stadium dilemma. And then the hope is that wherever the new stadium would be, Tampa, I presume, that they would, the market would support what has been a really wonderful story now for more than 10 years. When the Twins hired Rocco Baldelli out of their system, I asked him early on, I said, what makes them so great? And he says, I don't have enough time to tell you. They do something differently there. They bring people up and they just say, we expect you to do well, and we're going to give you every opportunity to do well. And, that's where players go to, develop within their system, but also where players go to reestablish themselves in their careers. And God bless them. They're one of the more remarkable stories in any sport.
Before we let you go, after today, it's off to Yankee Stadium and then Fenway Park, 2 of obviously the hallmarks of baseball. We know all about Yankee Stadium. This is it's still Aaron Judge's team. This is an early challenge to see where the Twins, how they pitch, especially in New York.
Right, and then the next homestand, the Yankees come back here, and then we'll be done in the regular season anyway with the Yankees before the end of April, and then I think we're done with the Astros in early May, mid-May, something like that. Yeah, I mean, the Yankees have some injury issues too, particularly their starting rotation. Yep. And so we'll see how it plays out. When you bring players in like Correa and Farmer and Michael A. Taylor, people like that, they'll hear about it, I'm sure, when the team gets to New York. Oh, the Twins can't win there. And they go, oh, really? It doesn't, I haven't been a part of that.
Right.
So I don't, they're, and I'll hear it too. I'll get invited on radio shows in New York and they'll say, well, the Twins can't beat the Yankees. Well, of course they can, but they haven't, and they just need to, when they go there and in Boston, they need to play their best baseball in the last 3 innings. How many of those tough losses, regular season, postseason, Twins have lost because they played better baseball in the first 6 innings and then made a mistake in the last 3. It'll be an interesting series.
It's great to see you back at the ballpark. Have a great broadcast today, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week from Boston.
And thanks again to all your viewers for the well wishes. It really made a difference.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dick. Have a great game today. Yep. There he is, Dick Bremer, back in the broadcast booth today. Twins and the White Sox coming up noon today on Bally Sports North as they go for the rubber match in the final game of that series. Highlights of that coming up on our news today at 6 o'clock. We mentioned Edouard Julien will be in the lineup, the number 4 overall prospect in the Twins system, called up, and he'll make his Major League debut later today. We'll take a break. We come back. The top high school football player in the state of North Dakota has made up his mind. Riley Sunram will play at the University of Minnesota. Why he chose the Gophers. That's next when Hot Mike returns on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Welcome back, everybody, to Hot Mike here on this Wednesday morning. WDAY Extra, Inforum.com. Our thanks, as always, to Dick Bremer for joining us. Twins and the White Sox coming up in about 90 minutes from Target Field out in the Twin Cities. Story we've been following for a while came to a head last night. It's funny because I was texting with our next guest just early in the week. Hey, just wanted to get an update. Hey, you want to come on the show, chat for a little bit? And as luck would have it, Riley Sunram announced last night his commitment to play football at the University of Minnesota, and he is good enough to join us this morning. It seems crazy. You were on the show last June, right? I think it was right after the Bison offered, right? And then was it a couple days later that life seemed to change after that?
Yeah, it definitely changed after that. My life got a little busier with all the calls and coaches and stuff, but it's just been really fun, and I'm glad I got to go through this journey, and it's been an awesome experience for sure.
We're gonna take full credit on Hot Mike. We started that. Is that okay? Your first appearance here got the ball rolling. Are you cool with that?
That's good with me.
All right.
Yeah, I'm good.
All right. Well, first, congratulations. Tell us why the University of Minnesota won out to you.
Yeah, thank you. So, as a kid, I've always watched the Gophers, just playing. I never really knew it'd become a reality to play with them, and it's just been awesome. I love everything they do and how they do it, and I love how they compete with each other. And then just academic-wise too, they fit good for me, and their coaches have been amazing for me, and they've always shown me their support, and I love that. And I have good relationships with them now, and I hope to build that even more. But they've also just stood out to me, and I just love them, so I committed.
You went down this past weekend. Was it in the back of your mind, say, if I see what I want, I'm going to pull the trigger?
Yeah, so when I've been narrowing down schools these last few weeks, I thought of Minnesota, and I've thought about committing. I had that in the back of my head, and then this past weekend, I loved it so much. I love how Coach Devo coaches, and I sat in meetings with him, and then I watched him actually coach on the field. So I love how he coaches, and I just loved everything about Minnesota, and I have that feeling, so I took it.
When you did you talk to Coach Fleck?
I did yesterday morning.
What was that reaction? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so when I called him first, he was kind of questioning why I was calling him that early, because I called him at 7:45 before school. So he was a little surprised, and then I told him, and he couldn't believe it. But he was pretty excited too, and he said he never stopped smiling after that call. So it was good.
What was your emotions making that phone call?
Yeah, I was really excited. I was smiling the whole time. calling the head coach and telling him I'm committed is just, it's one of the things you'll never forget in your life. So it was great.
On the flip side, I know you probably had to call some coaches to say that you weren't going to go there. Tell us about on that. I know that's not easy. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so I'm very thankful for what they've done too, and it's just been an awesome experience to get to know those coaches too. And I've thought about how many coaches and people I've met through this journey. So it was a little hard to call them and tell them no, because that's it's no one ever wants to hear a no. But yeah, I'm just thankful for all that too. But yeah.
All right, so I was joking with this. We had you out in June. The Bison offer, UND offers, and then. Tell me when things started to not spiral, but really get going, like Minnesota, Nebraska, Kansas State. We're on the air. I think you tweeted out when the University of Miami offered you. When did you start to say, okay, this is getting wild?
Yeah, so ever since that Minnesota offer, I thought things were getting, going a little bit, because I never went there and thought I was going to get an offer that night. But during that camp, I was feeling it pretty good. I actually ran one of my fastest 40 times there, so that was pretty cool. But yeah, ever since then, it's kind of, it went up, and I knew it was kind of getting serious at that point. So,
like when Miami offered, had you talked to them at all? And what was that experience like?
They texted me that morning, and he said he wanted to talk to me that day, and I wasn't really expecting that. But yeah, he called me and told me he wanted to offer me. I was like, oh, that's crazy. Thank you. So
yeah, what do you say? You don't say no, right? I mean,
yeah.
Did you get a chance to go down there?
Yeah, I went down there, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago, so that was pretty fun.
What was that experience like, just to see? That's a different world than the upper Midwest.
Oh yeah. No snow there. The coach actually promised me if I went there, I wouldn't have to shovel snow ever, so that was kind of funny. But yeah, that was the cool experience too. We also just took kind of a vacation from home, so that was good. But yeah, it's fun down there, and it's also just fun to see how other colleges are different from Minnesota too.
Riley Sunram joining us from Kindred. Did any school look at you at a different spot? Was anyone say, "Hey, if you want to, you could play offensive line"? I mean, what was the sweeteners, I guess, being thrown out there about position wise?
Yeah. So Minnesota was almost like they were like the only school that offered D line, but they said either way they'd offer me just as a football player. But almost every school offered me as O line. So.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when you were visiting with Eric Peterson from the forum yesterday and reading that, the video, the first I saw you was playing defense in the Dakota Bowl a couple years ago on defensive line. Like, holy cow, this guy's a sophomore and he's just causing havoc. Was that always in your heart of hearts? That's where you wanted to play?
Yeah, I've always liked Minnesota. Just even like I told you, just growing up as a kid, I watched them, and it's just been great. And as a sophomore, I never knew this would be a possibility just because of how young I was and, all that. But, yeah, it's just been a great experience.
Was D-line always the spot for you? Like when we're watching video, Riley, from the Dakota Bowl from a couple years ago, and you're sacking guys, you're making plays all over. Was defensive line always like, you know what, that's where I love to play?
Yeah, I would have played either position. It's just, it's college football. But in the back of my head, I've always enjoyed D-line and, being on the D-line. So that was in the back of my head too. I've always enjoyed D-line a little bit more, so that had a little bit of an edge. So,
what are you at right now, height and weight? What are you at right now getting ready for your senior year?
6'5", 295.
Holy cow, man. That's the reaction now just from family, friends, even in school. Like, what has the last 12 to 15 hours been like, man?
Yeah, it's just been crazy. A mix of emotion. It's kind of surreal, just, how this is it's actually real now. Like, but it's been great. All my family have given me a lot of support, and, they were happy for me and congratulated me, and all my friends have congratulated me too. So it's awesome how much support I have, and I love it. So
I know I've talked to other people, guys that have commit, men and women, just about the weight off the shoulders. Was it like that today? What was the emotion waking up today, knowing this is all over and done with?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a relief, just so I can focus on one school now and focus on my last high school season, because I got to focus on that too, even though I'm committed to a college. But it's definitely been a relief, probably for my parents too, because they don't have to take me on all these visits and spend all their money on food. So, but yeah, it's been good. I'm just excited that it's kind of all over, but it was definitely fun going to all those colleges too.
So I was texting with your dad about this, just about that experience, though. Now that it's over, but that's something you'll have with your family. You can look back on and say, we did this. That's a neat memory.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely I'll remember it for the rest of my life, and I'll tell my kids one day just, what I was through, and hopefully if I have a boy, but that'd be something he could go through too, and I could kind of share that experience with him. So
Was proximity a big deal? Was staying around here, was that a big deal at all or not so much?
Yeah, I've thought about that too. Minnesota's not too far away, so that's obviously good for my parents and family to see that. But it was never my biggest concern because I knew my family would travel either way, just because how much they support me. But yeah, it's definitely easier for them that it's only 3.5, 4 hours away. So
I had a bunch of people wondering, well, are the Bison in this? Was NDSU how high did you think? I know they were early. How much were they considered for you in this whole deal?
yeah, so right away I had a little bit of consideration just for them because I've watched them too growing up. Like they were the team to watch, just winning all those national championships. But I've also thought about too, like it's only 30 minutes away. I kind of wanted that college feel too, like being a little bit farther away from home. So I think that was just a little too close. But
I got to ask you, with Carter Men's going to Minnesota from West Fargo Cheyenne, I know they've got Mason Carrier from Detroit Lakes. Now yourself, how big a deal is it, Riley, that Minnesota has made some inroads up here for local guys to come down to the U?
Yeah, I think it's awesome that two guys from North Dakota are going to the U now. It wasn't in my decision that Carter Men's was going there, but obviously I've committed now, and it's awesome that we're both going to be there about the same time. So it's going to be pretty awesome.
So what are the plans today? This is all over. You turn the phone off. What's the plan here? You going out for dinner tonight?
Yes.
What do you got going on?
We're not celebrating. I got some more interviews to do tonight. So, but it's definitely going to be a few busy days. But then it'll start to calm down and be all back to normal again. So,
are you doing track this year or no? This spring.
I am. Yep.
Tell me about that and how that helps you for football.
Yeah, so I'm excited about that too, because a lot of that's footwork and how you can move on your feet. Because I spin in the shot put, so that's a lot of technique, and D line is a lot of technique too. So that helps that out, just quickness, and then all you do is lift in the weight room. So that's good too.
We had Coach Crane, Matt Crane, on the show last week about his new job heading to Bismarck. But I was asking him about you last week about having the different schools come into Kindred. What was that like to see Minnesota or Iowa State, these big-time programs walking through the hallways at Kindred High?
Yeah, it's just crazy that those big college schools are coming to Kindred, North Dakota, this small town. But I've asked them all, and they all enjoyed Kindred. Like it's a small town feel, but yeah, it's just been awesome how they could come here and show their support for me.
Last few years now, Riley, we've had a guy from go to Kansas State. I mentioned Minnesota, another Minnesota. What's that say about the level of high school football right now in North Dakota?
I say it's really physical, and we can compete at the college level. So.
Especially at the highest level, right? I mean, it's one thing. Yeah. It's pretty good for NDSU and UND, but we're talking now Kansas State was playing Alabama in the Sugar Bowl a couple months ago. It's a whole other level now we're talking about.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So now it's over and done with. Feet up, relax on this. You turn the phone off. What's is that the plan now? That all right, colleges, I'm done. Stop talking to me. Do you even have to say that?
I wouldn't think so. I mean, I'm committed to Minnesota, so I'll definitely get to work down the weights and stuff because I know what I'm working towards now. But I'm definitely looking forward to that. But I'm going to start working too. So
my last question: Has Minnesota told you? Is there a certain weight they'd like you at when you get on? I know you still got a whole year and a half to go, but have they talked to you that in depth yet about what they want you at by the time you get down there?
It's actually kind of funny because in July they told me they wanted me at 295, but that's what I weigh now. So, but they told me I carry my weight really well, and I bet I'll be over 300 there.
Well, man, I really appreciate the time. Like I said, I feel like we jump-started all this for you and you came on, and now it's a perfect capper to have you on when you announced your commitment. Congratulations. I hope you're able to enjoy a little bit of today, and we'll talk again soon, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Good to see you, bud. Congratulations. There he goes. Riley Sunram from Kindred, North Dakota, #1 prospect in the state, announced his commitment last night to the University of Minnesota. And, I mentioned this for 24, and it's no slight to the guys from 23. We had, obviously, Carter was the #1 commit to go to Minnesota, but it was not a great year for high school football prospects in North Dakota. 24 is shaping up like one of the all-time greats. Obviously, with Riley out there, Coy Okeson you're going to meet from Bishop Ryan from Minot, North Dakota. He's got a Nebraska offer. He's got a Bison offer. The Gophers are highly interested here. Nate Tasted, we've introduced you to him from Rolla, North Dakota, who's already got some Kansas State is offered him along with the Bison. You met Peter Haugo last week from Fargo North, who's got both the in-state schools offered him. 24 is I'm sorry, I'm missing somebody here. They're going to get mad at me, but 24 is shaping up as one of the all-time greats, and that's why we'll follow this pretty closely here over the next couple of months to see where these guys are going to go. But Riley Sunram to the University of Minnesota. Congratulations to him. We'll podcast that as well coming up later today if you missed that. We'll take our final break here. We'll come back. We'll get you ready for a busy Sports Wednesday and wrap up the show. Hot Mike wraps after this on WDAY Extra and Inforum.com. Wrapping up our show. Good one here today. Tomorrow, Jim Nagy will join us, Executive Director of the Senior Bowl. That'll be at 10:35 tomorrow to get our NFL Draft preview really ratcheted up. Also, Darren Mueller, NDSU softball coach, will join us at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Bison gets set for a showdown with South Dakota State. 1-2 in the Summit League. He'll join us as well tomorrow. So a big show on tap. Looking forward to that. Make sure you join us from 9 to 11 tomorrow here on Hot Mike. Lavelli Neal III, who covers the Twins, a bunch of other stuff, columnist for the Star Tribune, tweets out that Carlos Correa will go through all workouts today. Likely going to be back in the lineup. Rocco Baldelli says Correa will be back in the lineup tomorrow for the Twins when they open up their 4-game set with the Yankees. Correa will go through a complete pregame workout today to make sure. So that's good news there. No Correa today, but likely tomorrow as the Twins open up their set against the New York Yankees. Also, from the Eye Care Department, the Mets are saying Edwin Diaz was asked if he is progressing like he wants to pitch again this year. That would be awesome. But don't want to rush that, but that would be A-okay if he was to somehow come back for the Mets standout closer, the best closer in baseball after injuring his patellar tendon, which is the same injury that the U.S. women's soccer team, Mallory Swanson, their best player, suffered in a friendly against Ireland over the weekend. Again, it's not the soccer match. It's so weird. Those friendlies they're competitive matches, but they're not competitive. Does that make sense? Same thing like with the World Baseball Classic, how got hurt there. But that might be a little ray of hope there for the Mets and the Mets fans about seeing the trumpet guy is how my son refers to him, come back and potentially pitch in 2023. Let's get you ready for what to watch before we get out of here on this Wednesday. We mentioned the Twins coming up in their finale with the White Sox. Sonny Gray will be pitching today for Minnesota as they wrap up this set. Lucas Giolito will go for the White Sox noon today on Bally Sports North. Also, for those keeping score, the payment needs to be completed by Diamond Sports by tomorrow, or else we've got a real situation. So we'll update that if any news breaks there. Remember, Diamond Sports did not pay the Twins their first payment. They and the Guardians missed out, which means if that happens, MLB will be forced to intervene and put the game on a different channel. So we'll see. But right now, still in kind of a limbo deal with that. We know the game today is on Bally Sports North. The second of the play-in games tonight in the NBA, the Thunder and the Pelicans, 8:30 tonight on ESPN. The winner will come to Minneapolis to play the Wolves on Friday night. Pelicans, of course, just played Minnesota tough. This is the 9-10 game in New Orleans, 8:30 on ESPN. And for you soccer rubes, I didn't forget you. We've got the Champions League continuing today on, in this game, I double-checked this, folks. It is on CBS. It's not CBS Sports Network, not Paramount Plus. It is on CBS, middle of the afternoon, Real Madrid and Chelsea, two of the best soccer clubs in the world, meeting this afternoon, 2 o'clock on the Big Boy channel on CBS to watch that one with some of the very best players in the world. That's why they signed up for it, so they get CBS for that one on a Wednesday today. So that'll be fun to check out. We got to roll. Thanks to our guests today, to Drew Trafton, Dick Bremer, and Riley Sunram. If you missed any of our program, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. Hope everybody enjoys the warm weather. Get out there and have a great Wednesday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. There's no guarantee that the Wolves won't lose. We'll see you tomorrow on Hot Mic, everybody, on WDAY Extra at Inforum.com.